Oh man, it's going down like Young Jock. This is crazy. The freaking free agency period, it just started. It just started today, and Angel Reese is already.
Free agency had barely opened, and the WNBA already delivered its first major shock. Within hours, the Chicago Sky pulled the trigger on a blockbuster. Angel Reese traded to the Atlanta Dream. Most fans were still trying to digest the new CBA when the news broke. Chicago walks away with 2 first-round picks. Atlanta gets Reese. Simple on paper, but this move has been building all season. And that's where it gets interesting. This wasn't a sudden decision. This was tension, expectations, and unanswered questions finally boiling over. Now the Dream are betting big on Reese, but are they getting a rising star, or taking on Chicago's biggest headache? Be honest, did Atlanta just make a power move, or a costly mistake? Drop your take in the comments. Let's break down the trade, because the details reveal more than you might think.
The first domino, the first major trade, the Chicago Sky. They've traded 2-time All-Star Angel Reese to the Atlanta Dream. Taylor Brooks first reported this information, and Kendra.
Chicago receives a 2027 first-round pick and a 2028 first-round pick. Atlanta gets Angel Reese, plus a 2028 second-round pick swap. That's the deal. Now here's what should immediately stand out to anyone who understands basketball value. Chicago just moved a 22-year-old, back-to-back All-Star, still on a rookie contract, and got 2 first-round picks in return. Teams don't pay that kind of price for temporary fixes or declining players. 2 first-rounders signal something much bigger. It's a clear statement of belief. That's an organization saying, this player can help us win right now. And Atlanta? They're not rebuilding. They went 30-14 last season. This is a team in win-now mode, and they just decided Angel Reese was worth real assets to go get. So give them credit. Atlanta made a bold, confident move. They identified their target and paid the price to secure her. But the real question isn't why Atlanta made the move. It's why Chicago was willing to let her go. Because that side of the story? It's a lot more complicated than a typical trade.
Reese boldly and competitively called out the Chicago Sky for how they would move forward in terms of needing talent if they were going to compete, saying that she wanted to be a part of the organization and she wanted to compete at a high level. It didn't go over so well, Jay, in the public eye domain, at least as far as Chicago brass was concerned, and she actually ended up being suspended for a half a game. There seemed to be sort of breadcrumbs that perhaps this organization was not prepared for her vocalness and her...
Angel Reese is a 2-time All-Star. She shattered the WNBA single-season rebounding record. And in just 2 seasons, she's become one of the most talked-about players in the league, whether for her game or everything around it. Those aren't the credentials of a player teams are usually rushing to trade, especially not while she's still on a rookie contract. Players with that kind of production, visibility, and upside are typically the ones you build around, not move for future picks. Which is exactly why this trade feels different. Because when a franchise decides to move a player like that, it's rarely just about basketball.
And watching the bottom of your screen. The contact by Reese.
And yet, here we are. Chicago Sky GM Jeff Pagluka made the call, and by all reports, he was ready to move on from Angel Reese long before free agency even opened. This wasn't a reaction to one moment or one incident. It was the result of something building over time, a pattern that became impossible to ignore. Anyone watching closely could see it unfolding throughout the second half of last season. And eventually, Chicago decided they'd seen enough.
Last season after she later apologized for that and had a brief suspension.
This is where the story really turns. The conduct detrimental to the team's suspension wasn't just a headline, it was the first visible crack. Angel Reese warmed up, was expected to check in, and then refused when her number was called. She never played again that season. The official explanation was a back injury, but the timing and the optics that followed raised real questions that were never fully put to rest. Not because anyone can diagnose an injury from a photo, but because trust matters. And when the situation looks inconsistent, it creates doubt. In professional sports, that kind of doubt spreads fast, from the front office to the locker room. And that's where things reportedly got worse. Comments attributed to Reese about veteran Courtney Vandersloot didn't sit well, and when a respected veteran feels the need to respond publicly, it's already beyond a quiet, fixable issue. Ariel Atkins showed visible frustration. Other players, reportedly, weren't happy with the environment either. At that point, this stopped being about talent. It became about culture. Chicago's front office watched everything unfold and made a decision. 2 first-round picks and a reset were more valuable than continuing to manage a situation that had clearly broken down. That's what it takes for a team to move a 22-year-old, 2-time All-Star on a rookie deal. Not a basketball judgment, a culture call. Now flip it to Atlanta. Stephen A. Smith called it a win for Reese. A fresh start, a better team, a winning environment. And on the surface, that makes sense. The Dream went 30-14. They already have perimeter firepower in Ryan Howard and Alisha Gray, plus strength inside with Brianna Jones. Reese adds physicality, rebounding, and presence in the paint. Basketball-wise, the fit is real. But here's the real question. Was what happened in Chicago situational, or is it something that follows her? Because Atlanta isn't rebuilding. This is a structured, competitive locker room with expectations already in place. And teams don't give up 2 first-round picks unless they believe they've answered that question internally. Now, the contrast everyone is thinking about. Caitlin Clark. Different player, different situation, but the comparison highlights everything. Indiana has doubled down on Clark at every level. Investments, roster moves, long-term planning. Even through challenges, the response has always been, build more, not move on. Chicago went the other way. They saw elite production, but also ongoing friction, and decided the future assets were worth more than the uncertainty. Reese's response? ATL what up? Immediate. Confident. Whether that's pure excitement or just messaging, it signals one thing clearly. She's treating this like an opportunity, not a setback. And honestly, that's exactly how it has to be. Because Atlanta gives her something Chicago no longer could. A clean slate, a stronger roster, and real expectations. But clean slates don't last forever. This is a winning team, with a defined culture and accountability already built in. Whatever ended her time in Chicago won't be viewed the same way here. So now it comes down to this. Can Angel Reese match the environment she just stepped into? Because if she does, Atlanta didn't just make a good move, they made a franchise-shifting one. And if she doesn't, then Chicago didn't trade a star. They avoided a bigger problem.